play-in tournament. Currently, they're the 7th seed. Just 2 games remaining in the regular season. The Warriors half a game back of the Grizzlies for the 6th. Still have a chance of securing that 6th seed at 32%, according to ESPN Analytics. So their playoff fate yet to be determined. Monica, is this loss a big deal? Should we be overreacting? Not a big deal? How do you view this for Golden State?
Well, I think you got to start this conversation by knowing that the Western Conference, a lot of these seeds are going to come down to Sunday, the very last day of the regular season.
So which the NBA wants. The drama.
We love it, the drama. My scale of 1 to 10, y'all, I'm at like a 5.5, 6. Because if you look at the matchups, it could play out favorably. Right now, they're in the play-in. If they win that game, they draw the 2 seed of Houston, which I think the Warriors will be fine with. Obviously, if they don't win that game and they have to go into 8, you don't want to see OKC in the first round. But also right now, at 3 and 6, we're looking at this potential Lakers-Warriors matchup, which I don't know if that one is tough, right? I think Houston is probably the one that they would favor and want to see the most. And so I think they have 2 opportunities to try to move in the standings again as the season winds down. That last game, though, David, is versus the Clippers, which to me is a team that's very underrated. So that's going to be a challenge. But I think right now you got to play out the rest of the season.
This was kind of close to a disastrous loss for this Warriors team. They have created a situation where now they have the toughest possible scenario going forward. They're probably their best bet is a 6 seed right now, which they play the Lakers. Yes, I think they have a chance against that Lakers team, but nobody says I want to go play that Lakers squad right now with Luka and LeBron going into the playoffs. And then you look at maybe getting into the play-in. And my biggest concern with the Warriors coming into the play-in is that erases a week of rest for a team that is getting older, that looked at the end of that game last night like they desperately needed some rest. Draymond and Steph, when they, look a little tired, they start making bad turnovers. And there were some bad turnovers towards the end of that game. Draymond fell asleep on a backdoor pass towards the end of that game. Like, that is a sign of fatigue for a team that needs rest. So, yes, I think they can get in the 6th seed, but drawing the Lakers is not something you want. And if you're in the play-in, that makes this extremely, extremely difficult.
Yeah, so the thing about this one, they didn't lose to the Thunder on the road. They're home against the Spurs. The Spurs are playing on the second night of a back-to-back. They have nothing to play for, really. I mean, pride. They obviously were playing with pride. But they're up by 12 points in the start of the fourth quarter. Like, look, if they play a team, even if they play the Spurs and the Spurs shoot 68% and they hit like 22 of 37 threes, and you're like, holy Moses, we ran into a buzzsaw. Like, it happens over the course of 82. This game they're holding right in their hands, and it's a vitally important game, and they just let it go on their home court. And I think here's where my big issue is. It's sort of a combination of what David said and what you said, Monica. I agree with you that the difference between the 2 and the 8th seed in the West is negligible. That all of those teams believe they can beat each other, and all of those teams have flaws that will allow them to be beaten. Clearly the Warriors are flawed. Look what happened last night. But the way the Warriors are going to try to pull this off, they're going to try to play with a very small lineup. And I just think what you're going to ask this team to do to make a long playoff run, what you're going to ask Draymond Green to do, guard bigger players, play with a lot of energy, I think it's going to be energy zapping to them. And so I think they need to be doing the opposite. I think they need to be taking load off instead of adding load on. So now we know they're going to have to play through the buzzer on Sunday night. I mean, that was probably already going to happen, but that guarantees it now. Now they got to press the gas all the way down. Now they know there's a real chance they have to immediately turn around and play next Tuesday or Wednesday, and it's possible they could have to play next Friday if things don't go well. And so you're just stacking on the load. And I feel the same way kind of about the Lakers. The Lakers have a flawed roster, but the Lakers have taken care of business. They have done a great job down the stretch of winning the games they need to win. And that has enabled them they're locked up in the top 6. They get one more win, they're going to be in the 3 and get home court in the first round. And the difference between handling their business that way and letting a game like this go can be the difference in setting yourself up in the postseason.
Yeah.
Speaking of games that should have been won, Vegas thought that the Warriors should have won last night. A little bit of historical relevance here. Warriors closed as 17.5-point favorites, according to ESPN Bet. That is the largest upset we've seen in the regular season in the last 2 years.
Concern, Michael, for the Warriors if they end up in the play-in.
Scale of 1 to 10, my concern's at like a 6. Here's the thing. If they end up in the play-in and get out and get the 2 matchup with the Rockets, they're live. If they are in the play-in and draw the 8 matchup with the OKC Thunder, I do not think they're live. I'm in on the Thunder. I get how legendary and how much basketball late in the season and posting ball their big three has played, but that to me is bothersome. Now, this is still very fluid. Comes down to the very last game. Sunday they got Clippers, which is not going to be nobody's cakewalk, so we got to see how that goes.
Bobby?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the stock market, right? The Western Conference is like, there's so much volatility here as far as you can make a case that Golden State can get to Western Conference Finals. You can make a case that Golden State can lose in the first round. And I think, as Monica said, as long as you don't lose in that 7-8 play-in, if you're there, then yes, you do have a shot even as a 7 seed to get to a conference finals.
How about this? In LA, James Harden, well, look, real quick here. You take a look here at the standings. There, Warriors right now, 7th spot. They're with the T-Wolves. They're in the 8th. So you can see how tight this thing is.
And to be honest, like that game itself, you can't take that game for granted. It's a 7 game.
Yes, absolutely. The Clippers right there in the 5 spot. Hey, James Harden had 35. Kawhi Leonard had 22. Ivica Zubac had a triple-double. You know, Clippers beat the Rockets. Clippers have now won 6 in a row. Bobby, I gotta ask, are the Clippers, are they the sneaky contenders, I'd say, to win the West, you think?
They're dangerous, but here's the problem. They're staring at that 4-5 game. So even if they get out of that, you're looking at Oklahoma City in the second round. I will say this, though. They've got an identity about them. They defend, and if you can defend and get stops in the playoffs, you have a chance. And I think you can make a good case that the Harden-Kawhi duo is probably the second best in the Western Conference outside of Luka and LeBron.
Something about the potential of an SGA Kawhi Leonard face-off is like,
Yes.
Come on, give me the mid-range money, okay?
Right.
Don't tell me the mid-range is dead because you got both those two dudes that are out there and do it at a very, very high level. Bobby, I'm glad you said that because as I've watched the Clippers as of late, their ability to defend and their versatility, I don't know that they have the same sort of depth that we've seen from OKC this year, but as much as you talk about the Harden and Kawhi and the SGA matchup, Zubac and Hardenstein to me is another one that's really intriguing. And so I do wonder if we're starting to see the best basketball from the Clippers yet. Not that I think they had a chance to have this sort of runaway record that OKC had, but if this version of the Clippers team is a better matchup than what we've seen during the course of the regular season for them.
And let's not forget about the Nuggets. They beat the Kings in their first games, firing a Michael Malone, snapping that 4-game losing streak that they had. Nikola Jokic, 32nd triple-double of the season. Monica, your reaction to what you saw at Denver last night?
Honestly, ho-hum. All right, well, the train is still on the track, so to speak. And I say that because they still have a core. So much about what they're going to be able to do potentially is about how healthy they are. I get that the Malone firing personally had my jaw drop, but you go to the lead assistant, so for the most part, it's still established what we do and how we do it. The assistant's going to put fresh eyes and fresh energy into it. They need to win this ball game. They're better than the Kings, so I wasn't, really enthralled. I don't think there's a ton to take away from this.
Listen, after the game, we heard from Nikola Jokic for the first time since Malone was fired. Take a listen to what he had to say.
I knew a little bit before everybody, and he told me like we made a decision, so it was not discussion. It was a decision, and he told me why, and so I listened and I accepted. I'm not gonna tell what he told me. I'm gonna keep that pride. It's really hard for me because I think this is business, and I have to playing back home with my friends, but this is something that I want to win something, and I think I'm a professional, and I think this is my job, so I'm trying to be as professional as possible.
Okay, so you heard Nikola Jokic say, hey, look, they came to me. I got warning a little bit beforehand. I accepted it. Bobby, your reaction to what you heard from Jokic?
Yeah, I think it goes back to Josh Kroenke, their owner, and he knows he's been with that organization for a long time. He's been with them on the road. He knows the pulse of that locker room. He's not going to fire Michael Malone and then basically lose the locker room, certainly with Nikola Jokic here. So certainly he knows as far as what would have happened with Malone getting fired. I think the big thing here is none of the other assistants went in